Obviously, there's something very real about the way that so much of the situation originates in Pittsburgh. But the struggle for American political sociology obviously has come of age with the discovery that our society can't recognize that it needs a shrink in electing someone like Donald Trump to eviscerate law and order from on high and sabotage our safety net, our educational system, the many things that we've built from a century of social evolution. But some things come into focus when you're clear about what has happened. I don't propose this tape to be necessarily helpful in establishing ideas for a resolution. Rather, I propose it to be more diagnostic than prescriptive. And several things are established at the outset. One is that there's a strong preferential urge on the part of our society to stand with the attackers who are violating international law, who are practicing legerdemain, meaning not telling the truth, and who have created a situation of hopefuls laying in wait for spoils when things get redistributed after the shakeup in the enterprise. Further, we have the macabre song and dance of the Beatles about Gail Burston. Now, that doesn't bring you up to speed by any means. All that does is show who I am and where my work disappears into the framework of silence that comes from sandbagger media. Sandbagger media are those who went along with Nosferatu, who, when the game was to abuse me, and by abusing me, create performances of suffering in what Gabriel called a mind blender, which Robert Kennedy likens to crushing the extras on the movie set in a machine. I believe that the centerpiece of our current controversy, which is about the genocide in Gaza and the future of our society with maniacs on high who released COVID, lies in an obscure sub-story, subtext, obscure vignette on the margins of Iran-Contra. Not everybody probably even remembers Iran-Contra, so or was aware that it happened now that so many new members of the generation have arrived. But it was a time when Hitler-Reagan was in power, and he sold his cronies, his underling, Oliver North. Remember the guy, will all be income free when Ollie's in D.C. A pal of Air America who Richard Secord, who were implicated in the whole spiel of research called The Politics of Heroin in the Vietnam War in Southeast Asia. They likely sabotaged the hostages rescue of Jimmy Carter attempt. They sold Exocet missiles by a man named Gabanafar to Iran by way of Israel, meaning Israel secretly was arming Iran with American intelligence and weapons, showing that some hustling was going on in that area, in the big business of weapons scams, which continues to the present day. It's not lost on me that people haven't made any headway in evaluating the disappearance of billions of dollars into the weird arrangements with Zelensky in Ukraine that consumed Biden, who appears to have been hypnotized. And they did this so they could bomb Nicaraguan harbors, of all the idiot things to do, because of Reagan's dementia about the poor in Central America. Attempting to help them cost Roberto Clemente his life. So it's clear that some of these issues are faithful to one another. But the subtext of the Iran-Contra that I was talking about was when Michael Foucault met with the Ayatollah Khomeini, which is, I think, if you know who Foucault is, very strange. Until you realize that Foucault committed suicide by AIDS, and another man from the Green Party who did the same thing was outside the Dakota to represent Seattle in Lenin's Houdini. His name was Sean Strubb. And they built momentum by these perversions, so that suicide Americans are all the Gaza respects. That's a clue into something that's going on there. And it brings me to a very important affidavit that I filed this very day, to the effect that Seattle has a satellite base called Tacoma, where I live now. And I've noticed some strange things here. For one thing, I got finally something I've been trying to get for years and years out of the community college system in Pittsburgh. I got a climate change and botany class out of Tacoma Community College. But right after it was over and Greta turned up, we got hit by COVID. The teacher's name was Stave, like stave something off. So what I noticed in Tacoma, some of the things I've noticed in Tacoma, is there's a place called Tacit, where one of the people there was openly smirking about defrauding me of the value of my art. And the sad conditions that I live with because of what Paul McCartney pulled with John Schulman in Pittsburgh. And Tacit is Tacit, ID, which is like CIA leaving DT for Donald Trump, or Trump's acid, which was tampered with, and which led to me having Parkinson's, on which medicine is TV, like Terry Visco, television, and Trump fans. So I had noticed some of these signifiers already, but what I filed today, which I think is important, was the discovery something adjacent to an issue I've already reported, which is that here in Tacoma there was a junction at J and Division, like Joy and Division, of I live on J Street, by the way, which is a Yid Psi group in politics. There's a sign down there about communism on the corner. It's that at the J Division, there's a hair place. It's a supernova. Behind it, above it, very loudly, it says Cosmonaut. Next door to it is the Center for Spiritual Development, which had an encrypted flag of Palestine. So here is like the rave scene, supernova, and Cosmonaut overlooking it signifies Russia. And then around the corner today, I found there's a place called Star Sandwich. And I had been writing about the way that the rave culture, there was a massacre of rave culture in Seattle, within my memory, coalesces with the idea that people who are sexually pornographic in their privacy, who live by the pleasure principle, deserved the prior genocide of which I have been researching because I was earmarked to be used. And the crushing it into Gaza, where people have religious sensibilities. Now, I think it's propaganda to say that places like Lebanon don't have a liberal cluster of people in their mainstream culture. They're a diverse arrangement. But those kinds of things do not they're kept sort of low key. They're not bragged about openly. They follow the lead of the bully pulpit more, that's established by people in Franklin Graham's foundation, the background of Donald Trump, and to some extent in Russia, although Putin has been known to be very laconic about pornography. They crush these things together to see if a forcing house, a mind blender, can result in any kind of solution. And then they're stirring in things like that are frighteningly suggestive of bacteriological Nazism. I've been poisoned in the mouth and in the eyes by Seattle. Pittsburgh, I was poisoned in the stomach and in the nervous system. Seattle double bagged me with the dopamine inhibitors. So what that leads to are some questions. To what degree is Foucault's visit with the Ayatollah symbiotic through the Iran-Contra pipeline of the military fundamentalists in America, who've always gotten the rubber stamp from weirdos like King Crimson? How is that symbiotic with the supernova establishment under the overlooked by the cosmonaut, which is a location blender in Tacoma, where I found the flashcard Magic Mountain Bavarian beer BB dome, suggestive of Magic Mountain from the supernova, the Lebanon dockyard. The revenge attack, fulfillment of Lenin's revenge for Yoko Ono. Which research into cinema and symbolism shows went all the way back to the Italian futurists in Fayum, D'Annunzio, Mussolini, and this is probably the time of the period against Sweet. I mean, these were symphonic people working with Ballet Russe and Diaghilev, came up with Cubism and fourth dimensional psychology. Houdini was around. When they made a long arc of thinking from D.W. Griffith to the present day, to use a star who John Lennon did the trick to create what they call a Casper, or a symbiosis, a friendly fascist, a forgiven dictator. Jesus cleanses the past and arises as a friendly dictator of new genocides of greater morality, as they would put it. Where does someone like the Ayatollah stand on something like that? We know where Nosferatu stands because he generated Gail Burstyn, the scriptwriter of the Texas School Book and the assassination of Kennedy, whose storyline Paul McCartney has championed. He's the godfather and the patron saint of all of the sandbaggers who refuse to discuss any of it. And how can you get anywhere without discussing it? I mean, these are the people in resistance to Donald Trump are actually the ones who are famous for getting him elected, because he was the one who championed John Lennon and crooked his finger and said, Jimmy Curry just wants a virgin, we'll give him a bimbo from Milan. And evidence was ruled completely out. The fact I didn't know she was a virgin and so on. So they have this TikTok war going with Asian, pornography overprinted with Gaza tears, which they turned to pus, when they poison me in the eyes. It's very weird nomenclature. I'm suspicious that the intellectuals of Lebanon are dirty-minded enough to come up with something like this too.